call the meeting to order. The Monday, December 21st Select Board meeting, starting a few minutes after 6. Let's see. Ron, so you can run once more. We'll see who we have. Ryan's paused.
Do I read the names again?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have myself and Brian Shackett, Susan, Dave, and Roger Audette. And then for guests, we have Green Mountain Access, Elizabeth Fenn, Susan Trainer, Jerry Smith, Mary Waltz, and unidentified caller number 4.
Okay. There we go. We can see Jerry.
Oh, he's got to unmute. He's got to go.
Hello.
There he goes. Hi, Jerry.
There we go. Okay. And again, folks, if when you're not talking, if you mute yourself, we get a lot less feedback. Of course, then as I have to remember to unmute myself when I want to say something. First of all, are there any changes to the agenda?
None for me.
Dave, Brian, Roger, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I know we have at least one person, Sue, wanted to address us at the beginning with public comments. So, Sue, what can we do for you?
Hi. I will try to read this quickly. It is about the water issue.
Okay.
The village is in charge of the water and the electricity. To that end, they follow all laws and submit plans to government agencies to ensure they're compliant with all state and federal laws. I would imagine there's very little wiggle room in what they have to do. The village recently was required to do an upgrade to the water system. They secured funding, they worked with the bond bank, and they moved forward with the project. This affects both town and village residents. In an effort to provide fair and equitable pricing for residents, they've distributed costs between residents and businesses. It appears, though, that this select board and its chair are more concerned about the prices that Stowe and the county will incur. It appears that efforts to find other water sources are being encouraged, such as suggesting sites, digging wells, or taking the village to court. Of course, court costs will affect Hyde Park taxpayers, but this doesn't seem to be a concern of yours. In the last 6 months, I've witnessed the town select board and chair make snap decisions with no effort made to follow their own policies or standards. I've witnessed the sheriff say he wouldn't follow zoning laws. It seems as though the trustees are the only group that are actually following the laws set forth by the state and the feds. I would ask that this select board support the professionalism of the work done by the village trustees and support them in their efforts to spread the cost of the required upgrade to all users, Stowe, Morrisville, and Hyde Park, instead of acting as the defenders of the larger entities and making individual residents of Hyde Park pay the entire bill. Town seems to have a history of not actually getting along with the village trustees. Please put this aside for a change. We are one community. Do not put the taxpayers in the middle of your small town feud. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make public comments at this time? Of course, there are ways through the meeting. If there are specific topics. We're happy to have you join us then.
This is Susan?
Yeah.
This is Ryan. How are you? Did you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah. Ryan Nolan, yes.
That's me.
I do.
Hi.
So I've got a couple, well, I got a concern from, as a taxpayer, mainly. I was approached by a reliable source, and I was hoping that the member that it came from is not there tonight, but I was asked what we did to stab the select board in the back, because he said we stabbed him in the back and he was going to get back at us. And I guess I was just concerned about how he's going to get back at us, and I just I don't know what to do about it. I mean, it's just I was told about it like a month ago, so, and I was hoping he was going to be there tonight so I could ask him what we did to make him so mad at us, I guess. But
Well, Ryan, you got me. Maybe what we should see about doing is having a sit down with maybe we should do it with the select board and yourself and anybody else on the road crew that has issues, and just and have a conversation. You know, one of the things that happens in small communities is people get pieces of information, and they base their actions and their thoughts and their conclusions on pieces instead of maybe having all of the information. We all do that in our lives. That isn't unusual people behavior. But I think maybe it would make sense to have to be able to sit down, and we can talk with Mark, or you and Ron and I can have a conversation, see what we need to do to set up to have a conversation about this.
Susan, can I interrupt a minute?
Sure, Roger. That's for you.
I think if Ryan has a problem with something, isn't he supposed to be going through the union representative instead of coming directly to the select board?
Yeah, that's probably a good route for him to go. That's why I said he should talk with, and in that process, he needs to talk with Mark first.
Why can't I come as a taxpayer?
Well, because your issue, I mean, what you're bringing really is a personnel issue, as opposed to, I think the lines can get confused there, but it's just seeing that you are unionized, probably just to be on the safe side, not get the union upset either. But talk with Mark, and then Mark passes it on to Ron, and then we can come up with a plan from there. So it's really just sort of, I think, Ryan, doing the steps in the right order. That makes sense to you?
I guess, yeah.
We had Ron, could you check in with Mark if he's not on yet? I know Mark is supposed to be joining the call.
Yeah, no, I think Brian's question was, hi, Mark. I think Ryan's question is exactly that, trying to figure out if it's a personnel matter that needs to go through the union, or if it's more of a community discussion that would be a taxpayer and select board discussion. Seems like the way he described it, it was a select board and employee issue, not necessarily a community issue. So it would go through the grievance process, or the process set out in the union contract.
Yeah, right, because it does. Grievance makes things sound, as opposed to there's just you've got some questions, so here's the process to go through. So Mark, if you're there, maybe you and Ryan can have a conversation tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, Ryan?
No.
Okay. Any more public comments at this point in time? Good. Okay. Next is with Mark and an update on some highway projects, and it's the Hyde Park Village 1111 water project and amending the paving cost share.
Yeah, I've been working on this a little bit more than Mark because it came down to some math questions. So
Okay.
basically the original 1111 had some conditions on a cost share for paving that would be done over a couple of years. The village engineer looked at it, and based on the construction schedule, the timing is critical because the original intention was that there would be some mechanism to hold money for future paving past the water project life. And the way the grants work and the way the funding works with the state, they would be the money coming from the state loans and grants would not be released until the work is done. So the only work that's getting done during the project is the Fitch Hill paving and some of the top coat on Main Street was going to be deferred past the end of the project. So that the issue of deferral past the end of the water project was an issue that was raised. And it's resolved by taking the value of all the paving that was going to be done under the original 1111 and put it onto Fitch Hill. So in order to have everything work as far as dollars go, the share on Fitch Hill is increased. And I should say the water project share of paving is increased on Fitch Hill from, let's say it was 25% to 92% of the top coat that's going to be put on that whole road. The rest of the roads will be the town responsibility. So we're basically going to, and we're going to defer the top coat because of some stormwater work next year. So in order to capture the state and federal loan money, we need to push the paving to sometime during the contract with the water project. So it's a little convoluted, but that's basically what's happening, is that instead of us figuring out how to preserve some grant and loan money from the water project past the end of the water project, which doesn't appear possible, the proposal is to amend the 1111 and only work on the Fitch Hill paving by increasing that cost share to 92% of total paving cost. I did review this with Summit Engineering just to check the math, and they were agreeable that it was good math, so that there's no dollar change of responsibility. It's the same cost share, if you will. It's just moving it onto Fitch Hill instead of a percentage of all roads. So the specific question is to accept the amendment and move the paving share with the village water project to 92% of Fitch Hill's base coat and top coat, removing the requirement for cost share on all the other roads, which is Church Street and Main Street, Eden Street, Centerville Road. So some of those roads will have no more cost share. They'll be town costs when we get around to it. So I don't have a written up amendment. That was just the concept to do that. And since it's a legal document, the town attorney would draft the amendment, and then Susan would be authorized to sign if that's agreeable to everybody.
So basically the money ends up being the same. It's just easier to have them pay while they're, instead of trying to extend grant money time period sort of thing.
Yeah, during the project.
Yeah. Basically, financially, it ends up being the same. It's just the time frame that the money's spent, right?
Yes. Yeah. The expenses will be incurred during the water project.
Okay.
And then we would have that split 92 and 8 next spring, hopefully, or early summer. it goes well.
Okay. Brian, Dave, Roger, got any questions?
No,
Not for me. No.
Sounds good. So I guess we need a motion to, I guess it's technically to have to accept the idea and have our lawyer will draft it up and then I guess I sign it. Yeah.
So
second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Let me see if we get the easy things out of here first. The winter seasonal help, independent contractors and Jim.
Yeah, I don't, Mark, do you want to speak to this or do you want to talk to it?
No,
Mark first.
Jim Charity, who actually works full-time, is willing to come help during storms. He doesn't want to work full-time by no means, just if we get in a bind, he's happy to come help us. I've been talking to some independent contractors. I haven't had much time as I wanted this week to get hold of more. I've contacted one and actually talked to him about it, who would be interested in helping us out, which we'll have to go through a couple of them and get some pricing on it, but that seems like that would probably work too if we got in a bind with an ice storm or whatever, to have somebody to back us up.
Yeah, the background on this is we're down one operator now, plus we have COVID related risk for the rest of this winter where we may have to lose or quarantine staff. So Mark's been trying to work up a backup roster, if you will, to help so that we can keep up the road maintenance with either somebody like Jim, who will be on call employee for the winter, and a contractor pre-approved list so that maybe, I guess ideally 2 or 3 contractors would have pre-approval status to come in an emergency and help the highway crew if their staff is down. So I think, and this is a question for Mark, I think our on-call plow operators are $18 an hour, and we have to come up with an approved or agreed upon rate for the contractors, but we don't have that yet. But that would be done through a short, probably just some kind of letter of agreement or a contract with those contractors. So we set out the terms and conditions and how it all works. But once those become more formal, then we have to go back to the board to show you how that would work before they'd be hired. But as far as Jim goes, Jim is one. Go ahead.
And Ron, just to add to it, another thing that Ron and I actually talked about the other day is some of our vendors we deal with are our dealers we buy our equipment off from that are having problems with COVID going to their garages, their shops, and mechanics are all out. And it's not even us getting sick, it's we're down and we need, say, International do something to our trucks, but their crew's out, or John Deere do something to our loaders so we can load our trucks. You know, it's that whole thing too behind us that is kind of out of our control, but something we got to think about.
Well, if I can interject here, Mark, this is Dave. There's no question at all about Jim Parody. I mean, anybody knows that he's Jim. He's going to jump in and do what he's got to do. And like I said, I talked to him the other day, and he said the same thing. He said, I want to hang around. If there's nothing to do, I want to go home. But if there's plowing to do, I'll plow. You know, as far as independent contractors, you know, if one of the trucks go down, I think it'd be just as well to go to see Waterhouse or you know, some of these guys and have them come into our shop and do it. Now I realize some of these trucks you need special computers and all that stuff to diagnose and stuff, but we got some pretty smart people right around here, you know, with John Deere and International. So I think we're pretty set there.
We do, but the computer part, you know, a lot of this, most of our issues are emissions, and emissions are all locked down to the dealer. You know, Waterhouse can't work on it. You know, nobody around here can work on it. That's what I got to keep in my head. And as far as Jim, yeah, you can't ask for better than Jim. He knows all our roads. He's great. He's good on the equipment. You can't ask for a better man.
Right. So.
But I'm just looking out, you know, if something did happen, you know, of course, you're always planning for the worst this time of year, trying to make sure you're covered in everywhere. But that has been an issue with John Deere and with supposedly Charlie Boyce and Clark's, is this whole COVID thing. And it's just trying to get a backup plan if something did happen in the middle of an ice storm.
Mm-hmm. I think we're gonna be just like
Not saying we're
anybody.
going to use it, but it doesn't hurt to have a backup plan so all my taxpayers are stranded.
That's right. It's
During
just like any, we're gonna go through with our fingers crossed and hope that we can avoid it.
Right, exactly. And Moorshill's called me a couple times, knowing we're short on help and seeing if we need help finishing up a routes or whatever. They've been very good to deal with. So, we do have some good neighbors around us.
Yeah, we'll get through. We'll get through it. That's I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. It's because everybody's going to help everybody else.
Right.
Okay, so what do we need to do for an action with this, Ron?
It's an on-call winter hire position for Jim Parity at 18.
I'll make that.
So move.
Second.
Dave and Roger.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. About Beam Road.
Oh yeah, it's a very similar process that we did with Crabapple. That's probably started 5 years ago, where the town got to a point where we did the site visit, decided that there was some public right-of-way needs over there where the town was already plowing, but there was no public right-of-way, and in order to maintain any stretch of any shared driveway or road with public equipment, you're supposed to have a public right-of-way for insurance reasons and liability reasons and a bunch of other things. The first step, once you establish where that right-of-way is, where the terminus is to have some survey work done, and then look at that plan and get an approved plan together, typically with the neighbors, because we will be taking control of some of their property. Typically, we have a 50-foot right-of-way with a larger turnaround area for the plow trucks. And once that plan is looked at, come to an agreement. I mean, you can force the issue, but we typically don't do that. We just kind of begin with a sketch and have meetings and talk about it and then get a final plan approved. There's a process under Title 19 we'd follow in the end, with the goal of having it all updated at some point and the new turnaround established for the long term. And that gets updated on the general highway map, which helps determine state aid. So we're at the very beginning of that process to begin looking at that. The estimate is a little over $3,000, which is very close actually to the last road survey we did for Crabapple. When the board got to this point, we had a pretty good idea where the turnaround was and where we wanted it. So the last surveyor said the same thing, up to $4,000 to establish pins and meets and bounds and get it laid out in the field. And then the select board would have their statutory process followed, which gives neighbors a chance to appeal and go to court and argue if it's not something they agree with in the end. So this is a discussion about, do you want to start that process? Do you want to authorize up to $4,000 for survey work? Matt Reed is working on the other end of Beam Road right now near Garfield for a subdivision project. So he's already doing some of the field work to establish that right away. And I think the missing piece is a select board decision on exactly where the turnaround will go. We do come up Beam Road, go past the top of the hill and come down the other side where we have a turnaround on Jerry Smith's property. And the whole section of road serves 5 houses, I think. So it's not serving new houses, it's existing homes. And Jerry can probably chime in, but we've been out there for many years anyway. It's just we never cleared up the right of way. So I'll let somebody else, maybe Jerry, give some information if he has things. You're right as far as 5 homes out there, 5 properties. And, you know, we've owned our property since 1995, and it's always been plowed down to our turnaround. The question has always been, does the town road end, and, you know, where is private road? As I've stated over the last several meetings, it seems to me that the town road, or at least the town, has been getting state funds for down to past Sherry Heckler's property from the length of the road anyway that you're claiming. You know, what I would ideally like, and I think I need to run it by the neighbors, and I don't know what's possible for the town to do, is we have what is the established road at this point, which is, I think, from what I've heard from various people, a bit of a problem with the town as far as the corner that comes around to Sherry Heckler's house, as far as sight distance is concerned. And it's also a problem from Sherry's standpoint, because you basically plow snow into her living room there. Whether, if we survey this and the property owners are willing to spend some money to move electrical boxes and so on, can we move it, you know, 20 feet uphill, if you will, if you're going to survey this and going to take it over. So I don't know what the process would be for that. I think the turnaround, ideally, from what Ron has said, and I think it makes sense, would be to move it from where it currently is, closer to Sherry's property line, which would be the Garcia's property that we have a right of way through. And I think it's a matter of everyone getting together and establishing what they're willing to do, and go from there. One problem, from what I understand, is Sherry has 5 acres that if she sends that over to the town, does that mean she doesn't have enough property because it's a 5-acre zoning sort of thing? So that's about all I have to say at the moment, and take it from there. Yeah, I think the quick answer on zoning is that the right of way over the land will not affect the acreage. Okay. If the town took a fee simple strip of land from Heckler, yes, that would potentially create a problem because the lot would get smaller. Okay. Well, that's good, because we've been worried about that as far as whether that's doable or not. Yeah. It sounds like it is. But you know, where does the select board stand as far as, are they interested in pursuing this and trying to get this straightened out? You know, I think I can speak for the neighbors. We're willing to work with the town and try to get a turnaround that works for everybody, and, you know, hopefully have it be town road and not have to keep having these conversations every couple of years as to where you're going to plow to and so on. Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Just to add to this, just to try to clarify some stuff, that's going to have to be an 18-foot wide road, correct? And by Sherry's, there's a tree in the ditch where there's going to be some issues that come up through an 18-foot wide road. So that's going to be something that the landowner needs to be, you know, understanding that. But it's not fair for us to tell everybody else we got to do an 18-foot road and not. And I haven't measured it, but I don't think it's 18 feet.
I'm not sure, Mark, what you're saying is an 18. Yeah, the 18. Yeah, Jerry, the 18-foot is the minimum road standard for the town policy to reconstruct or accept town highways. Okay. So and you're saying moving 90 foot somewhere? Yeah, so your suggestion of moving the road to the east by 20 feet would resolve that issue, because if you move further away from Heckler, you have a chance to put the two basically 9-foot lanes down and put the proper ditching in, and all of that work typically interferes with vegetation and utilities. So the first part is to get a site assessment done of what's there now, which is the preliminary survey work, so we know what's actually in the project area, so we know what the limitations might be.
Sure, I can understand that. And that goes with what surveying at this point?
Yeah, there'd be multiple steps. So, for example, having a good preliminary site map drawn up with just a broad brush, big picture.
Right.
Tree, utility box, telephone pole, end of road, Sherry's driveway, those kind of things.
Sure.
Then the neighbors in the select board talking about sort of the options from there. It's hard to talk about options without seeing those on paper.
I can understand that very definitely. So basically, again, the question is whether the select board wants to spend the $4,000 to get the preliminary survey.
The preliminary survey is less. The 4,000 up to 4,000 was for the recordable survey, actually, to get that in the land record. So that 4,000 is broken up into phases, if you want to look at it that way.
Okay.
So we revisit that as we go. I mean, obviously, we have enough information. I've done enough research to get that work started pretty quickly and have a decent preliminary site survey done for everybody to look at over the winter, probably, hopefully, and then carry on with that, kind of back and forth a little bit, if you will.
Sure.
Yeah,
No,
I
that
thought,
makes sense to me. And
yeah, I thought, Jerry, I think at the,
that's it.
we were talking about this at the last meeting, but that we all agreed this was a good idea and to sort of move forward with it and see what we were getting into and what the possible resolutions are. So it sounds like, again, taking this first step of getting a sort of a site map drawn and then figuring out what the options are from there, and then going on with whatever we all decide is the best option to then get the recordable survey done. But I think other board members, aren't we pretty much agreed that we're going to go forward with this? Or did I dream it?
Yeah, get it done, let's get it over, so we don't talk about it every 2 years.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I thought
it's
we
not
agreed.
that we don't like you, Jerry.
I understand.
I
Well,
think
yeah.
of the project.
Yes, so let me know what you need from us, if anything, at this point, and keep us informed, and we'll go from there.
Super. Okay, we'll keep plugging along here.
So did you want to have a motion on the? Sorry, did you want to have a motion on the $4,000, up to 4,000?
Yeah, the up to as we did on the previous road. I think that would make sense.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, need any more information? We all set? Okay,
I'm
all in
good.
favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed, abstaining? Okay. Got that one done.
Again, thank you, guys.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
yeah. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you for your participation, Jerry.
How about Seth and the variety of things he has here? Assuming Seth's here.
He is.
Hi,
Hey,
I am
Seth.
here. How are you all?
Oh, terrific.
Good. So I think I have a list of things to talk to you about tonight.
You do.
So I'll start with the oldest, which is the FY19 municipal planning grant, which was concluded this fall, which started in 2018, which feels like a very long time ago now, and was a consortia project with the towns of Hyde Park, Stowe, and Wolcott to investigate FEMA's community rating system. And the community rating system is a program through FEMA that is designed to reduce, to reward communities that have taken regulatory and non-regulatory measures that exceed FEMA minimums. And there's two ways that the community rating system, which I'm going to probably refer to as CRS through most of this, rewards communities. The first is by reducing flood insurance premiums for private property owners, and the second is by providing priority scoring for hazard mitigation grants in that community. So the way the program is structured is that communities earn points for every kind of regulatory and non-regulatory measure that they take that goes above FEMA minimums. And there's a multi-page spreadsheet and a 100+ page manual that explains what types of activities a town can gain points for. One of the reasons we wanted to undertake this project is because we suspected that most communities in Lamoille County were doing enough, especially in the non-regulatory range, to qualify for the community rating system, but had not enrolled because of the administrative needs and burden of the program. So we looked at all three towns, and I'm only going to talk about Hyde Park because I suspect that's what you're most curious about, and found that based on what you're doing today, just as things are, you would qualify for the kind of entry level of the community rating system, which would qualify your residents for a 10% reduction in premiums. There were other activities you could do, specifically in the era of public outreach and other things that LCPC already does, potentially by doing in cooperation with LCPC and other towns, that could be increased to possibly 15% reduction. And one of the couple of the major areas where you receive points were for your past conservation efforts. Towns earn points for the total acreage in conservation, as well as the total percentage of the floodplain that is in conservation. So that's the good news that we found. The not so great news, which was something we kind of anticipated, is there is an administrative burden of the program. You really need to kind of have all your paperwork together, which I think of the three towns, Hyde Park probably has probably the most organized system right now. And then you have to have an annual review by FEMA. And it was that annual review by FEMA that, was sort of that would mean, an annual meeting with FEMA, an annual time from your staff to do those things. And we know that the staff time is a premium. So at that point, then what there really is a need to weigh the savings that you would get from, or the property owners would get from that reduction, and the bonus scoring that the town would get from the CRS program with those additional administrative requirements. So we looked at the number of structures in the floodplain and the number of enrolled flood insurance policies. And as it is now, there are more structures in the floodplain than there are structures with flood insurance. What that suggests is that many of those properties are owned by long-term owners, people who have paid off their mortgages, and so are no longer paying for flood insurance have chosen not to continue it. Also, something we found is that the average premium was significantly lower than we would have expected based on new policies. So the average premium paid by people in Hyde Park was about $750 a year. That's significantly lower than new policies that we've seen in some of your neighboring towns, which are in the thousands of dollars per month. So what that suggests, again, is older properties, older policies that are grandfathered. And so because of those two factors, the savings per policies are, you know, in the $100 range, which is 15 policies saving $100 a year is not a lot of money. So there was a question of, is that worth it? That I'm not going to answer that for you. I'm just going to put the numbers in front of you. Something to think about is that in 2012, Congress passed an act that would have phased out grandfathering. That act was repealed 2 years later. But what we kind of estimated is that you would see properties see 25% annual increases in flood insurance until they reached actuarial values, which could be in the thousands per month. Whether Congress ever tries to do that again, especially in this climate, is again something we can't speculate about. So really, I think a takeaway is there's a potential for benefit. To individuals, maybe the bigger benefit for Hyde Park is probably priority funding for hazard mitigation grants. For some other towns where a quarter or more of their properties are in the floodplain, including one of your neighboring towns is 60% of their commercial, huge percentage of their grand list in the floodplain. The calculus might be different in terms of savings versus administrative costs. And so our takeaway was that there could be some economies of scale for items like mapping, public outreach, overseeing and organizing that FEMA annual review, if done by Lamoille County Planning Commission. To accomplish those economies of scale, you probably need several of those towns with a lot of properties in the floodplain, and towns like Hyde Park is kind of benefiting and benefiting from what they've already done through that. So that's my really quick summary. There was a report I think was distributed to all of you. I'm happy to answer questions. I know this is kind of a different topic from what you've been dealing with since March. So
Yeah.
Understand if it's not where your focus has been.
Yeah, Seth, being one of those houses that has flood insurance, and we've had forever, how many properties do we have in the floodplains?
I believe
I wouldn't think it's a very high
so
number, is it?
you don't. So
Yeah.
Hyde Park is actually really unique in Lamoille County in that you only have a couple dozen properties in the floodplain. So you go either side of you, Wolcott, Johnson, Jeffersonville, Cambridge, you get into 20 to 30% of the properties. You're at like less than 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why, and again, for those of us that have been here a long time and we have the policies that we've had forever, you're right. The premiums aren't that high, and again, particularly when you've had a policy forever, it's like a lot of policies, and you don't make any claims. They got why lose the money they're getting? Because if they jack it up to $10,000 a year, we're dropping the flood insurance. So
Yep.
again, I would think it's sort of in terms of helping that small percentage of the population that has, right offhand, I wouldn't see that it's worth it. Where when you get into making the town eligible for mitigation dollars, then it's something to, to consider. But it sounds like, and sort of on this first one, it's almost Hyde Park. It's almost like we're a tag along with our neighbors on this sort of a thing.
I'd say so.
I guess I'd be more curious to see what the return on investment is going to be. Amount spent for what we're going to get back, if any, being in a non-flood zone. I mean, I'm sitting at 1,305 feet, so I'm not worried about it. And I think most of the people in Hyde Park that are not in the flood zone, it doesn't affect.
Exactly. That's why we're such a small percentage. I'd be surprised if the return on investment is worth it.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions about floods? Well, on to Seth's next thing.
All right. I think the next thing is the current municipal planning grant, which is the joint planning effort with North Hyde Park and Waterville. So over sort of planning around the Grange, parking, circulation for the Grange, and then branching out to the bigger pedestrian safety, economic revitalization issues of North Hyde Park. So we've spent much as we could in this climate this summer doing information gathering, public engagement up there. Have some ideas about ways to address some of the immediate needs about pedestrian safety without doing major capital outlays, because everybody understands now is not a good time to be asking for major capital outlays. At the same time that we have been working on that project, the Agency of Transportation released a new policy for doing temporary projects like temporary crosswalks, temporary pavement markings on state highways. So we're going to be exploring that to test some of the ideas that have been thrown out over the years in North Hyde Park to deal with some of those issues. And the nice thing about that approach is that it's the type of thing that if it doesn't work, you can take it apart. It's not committing you to having granite or curbing or anything that, if it doesn't work, is a huge problem for you. So we're going to be working with Ron and the Guyan Valley Hall Committee and some other residents of North Hyde Park to come up with a kind of long-term vision plan, and then pick out pieces that might fit in that temporary project for next summer, and to talk to you about that probably later this winter with some more details.
Sounds like a plan.
Great.
All the planning, we just kind of keep plodding along, right, Seth? Just a little bit at a time.
Yes, it's what we do.
Okay.
So speaking of planning and plodding along, I think the last item that I'm here to talk to you about are two possible grant applications to FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program, which was previously the Pre-Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, or Pre-Disaster Mitigation Grant Program, specifically to look at scoping for upgrading to the WIP Whitcomb Island Road Bridge and the Garfield Road culvert near the Green River Reservoir. So that grant would fund 75% of the cost of doing alternative analysis, concept level design for the preferred alternative, preliminary federal environmental and historic preservation review, and the required benefit cost analysis that FEMA requires. So once the that was done, you would have, you know, a implementation grant ready materials for whether it's a FEMA hazard mitigation grant, a VTrans structures grant, or a I'm forgetting the other grant we talked about, but there's a third one there. I'm having my oops moment. Oh, A&R, some of the A&R ecosystem restoration grants. So essentially the idea is that you would have all the box checked that you need to implement a solution for these two structures. So the request would be $50,000 for Whitcomb Island and $40,000 for a Garfield Road to do the full scoping. And the town would need to provide the 25% match for both of those.
So the goal here, we know that those are both big projects that someday
Yep.
are going to need to be done. And to do the planning and get things ready now so that basically what we have in hand are two major projects that could be eligible for a variety of funds, so that when they turn on the spigot and they want shovel-ready projects, we get to put up our hand and say, hey, we got a couple of big projects that, you know, that all the boxes are checked and we're ready to go out and do final things and bid on them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, this is how, by doing your work ahead of time, you end up being able to be in a good competitive position for, well, it's how with all that work we got the money for the sinkhole project, which still remains the sinkhole project to me. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, Ron, you need to unmute.
Part of the action items is a commitment letter from the select board to the match amount of that 25%, which would come from the highway reserve, stormwater reserve sources that we have. The application is simply that, it's an application. At some point, FEMA will get back to us based on whether or not they think it's a valid project and let us know if one, both, or neither would move forward. I'm not sure how long that turnaround takes, but it's probably not before this summer. So we're not talking about anything near term. But knowing from dealing with FEMA and everything else that their own systems, it can take quite a while to get an answer back. So if we do move ahead, Seth and I would continue to work on the applications. We'd add the commitment letter from the select board. And then at some point we'll get an answer from FEMA about whether the town wants to move forward with one or two. Obviously, if they say no, then they're not invalid projects, but we might have to go a different program instead of brick funding.
Hey, so
Yeah.
just from my own knowledge here, does it cost?
Wait, you're all crackly there, Dave.
Just my own knowledge. Does it cost the town anything per year to belong to LCPC?
Yes, about $4,800.
Yeah.
3,800.
Like that.
48, I think.
4,800. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just comparing the dues to the 25%. So I'm good.
They get us lined up for, boy. Personally, plug up ears for a minute, Seth. They may be some of the best money towns spend, I'll tell you, in helping you get ready to take advantage of things and check off the boxes when it comes down to being able to get money and funding to help folks get projects done.
Oh, just something I needed.
I'm sorry, what was that, Dave?
It was just something I needed to know.
Yeah, okay. And again, those are the sorts of projects, and again, it's because we have all the right boxes checked. So when we end up applying to FEMA, we end up getting what, like 92% or something, Ron?
Yeah, as long as we keep up with all the boxes, yeah.
Yeah. As long as we keep up with all the boxes, then instead of, you can get as little as, is it maybe 75%? I'm thinking, so it's sort of FEMA ranges every place from 75 to 92%. So it doesn't take many projects at the 92% to
I
pay
have
that.
to answer. I misspoke when I answered Dave's question. It's 1829 is in the budget for annual dues. So it's not an annual dues of 48, it's 1800. The other number that I was thinking about was whenever we come up with how to phrase this, projects that aren't funded otherwise, the town might come up with a work agreement with LCPC to do extra work. So it's not that it's just dues, which are the $1,829. It's we do make use of them as if we need extra staff, for example. So there is a little bit more in there that we do pay LCPC if they can't find money from their own resources, because they are allocated state money every year to operate. Some of it's general use money, some of it's grant money, some of it's special charge, so to speak. To give you an example, the highway department's been trying to figure out how to collect field data from the field and put it into an iPad so it can get uploaded to the state database. That's not something that's really covered by grants. That's something that we would do as a supplemental work agreement with regional planning. So just going to give you those 3 or 4 different pieces. So when you say how much does LCPC cost, it's sort of a combined effort of different programs that they provide. Some are totally paid, some town has to contribute, and some of it is through the dues.
Okay.
It varies every year. It's usually it has been under 2,000 a year for dues for many years. Actually, it doesn't go up a lot, very much, if that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Ron.
Let's see. So do we have any more questions for Seth? Or Seth, is there more we need to know? Oh, we lost him.
Muted.
Yeah, so we need a motion to approve the 2 commitment letters for the 2 brick projects, which is the 25% of the Whitcomb Island and 25% of the Garfield Road. Again, that's 10,000 for 12,500 for the Whitcomb Island and 10,000 for the Garfield Road. And then Susan can sign those. Susan can sign those, or I can sign those with authority to sign.
And the money for that comes out of a couple of our funds that we have put aside for that sort of thing, correct?
Yeah, the 2 reserve funds would be the highway reserve and the stormwater reserve fund.
Stormwater reserve, right? Okay.
Brian.
Okay, Brian moves. Got a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay. Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Great,
Seth.
thank you.
I want to get us through the variety of things that are easy and for the public, because when we get to the position and hiring, we need to go into executive session. So I'm sort of dropping that down to the end so that the public that's listening and wants to participate doesn't have a long drawn out before we get back to doing things. Oh yeah, town meeting day, and what do we do about town meeting? I've seen, and you guys, what you're all hearing and what your thoughts and what we, how we need to handle this. I see the towns around us are going to Australian ballots. There's there seem to be a variety of issues if you try to do a blend of doing things, folks calling in like this. How do you check? It doesn't really seem as though it's particularly feasible to do it that way. I don't know. What do you, Dave? What do you think? Roger, what do you think?
Isn't the auditorium big enough to separate everybody at Lamoille? What do we usually have, about 80 to 100 people?
Well, if you and again, how you police it, how you do it, if more people show up,
Do the best you can.
well, I
Yeah.
think, Ron, I don't, oh yeah,
I
because
think
we've got
the order.
Tim's here
right,
too, right?
Yeah, the current order is out there, which says no, large gatherings and so on. I don't know if those things would change by March. The mechanics of having people congregate under the current order is not exactly what the governor is intending to do. I think it's the opposite of that. So there might be some people that wouldn't go because of COVID. So they wouldn't have the chance to participate even if they wanted to, because they don't want to go into a high risk situation. That's, people crossing, going in and out of the building, sitting, who's going to say you're too close? Do you tape off chairs? People are not, participating all the time, easily on social media. So those people would love to come to a town meeting like usual. So either way, you're going to have people sort of hurt or not comfortable either way, either forcing people to go to a big meeting that they are told not to do by the governor, and people that are saying there's no meeting and you have to go online, and then people not being capable of that. So I think either way, there's going to be some people that aren't going to like the decision. For the people that don't have participatory tools, online, iPad, whatever, maybe the town would have to work on that issue and just open up some resources to those people that could participate virtual with a little help. The ballots on every article allows everybody to participate. So that is a benefit to people that if you do close the meeting and don't have town meeting, the participation would still be there because people could request a ballot and vote on every article, which people don't get that chance today because the only time you get to vote on every article is by showing up. Most of our articles are from the floor. So you will have increased participation potentially. The question of how do you do it, like Roger's saying, can you do it? I don't know if you could do it without a change in the governor's order and still have people feel comfortable there. I think it would take a lot of thought and planning to figure out how to pull it off, whatever the space is.
So I like the Australian ballot idea, but I think that it's important that we answer questions that the public has and maybe have two prior meetings. I don't know if it'll work, but two prior meetings, one virtual and another one somewhere where I'm expecting that the people that are asking questions will be significant lower than the total outturn of the public we normally get. So have another meeting somewhere where they can be socially distanced and still be able to answer their questions.
You
It'll
know,
fix both.
I'm sort
Go
of
ahead.
on the page. Let me run this idea, see if it's even feasible. With Green Mountain Television, they seem to post our meetings 2 or 3 weeks after we have it. Could we make a deal with them or the television station or whoever to have a information meeting on a certain night with call-in questions and town meeting day be strictly Australian ballot?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's sort of what you want to do, and you can do it. And I like sort of Brian's ideas is we could do something with Green Mountain Television, but then we could set, it's funny, Brian, I was thinking it's about like when folks come in to grieve their taxes, you know, you set times and people come in. So we could take an additional evening and set times, and people could call in and come in and see us if they wanted to, and just block it off in time. So that if folks wanted to come in, so take a commitment of 2 evenings, but that would give people a variety of access. And if you do the Green Mountain Television one first, I don't know about you guys, but always when I leave a meeting is when I have the best questions. You know, so that gives folks an opportunity to say, you know, you can email the questions or send them in, and here at X number, you know, a couple of nights later, we'll get together and answer more questions.
Well, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We'd have to get the town reports out earlier. Is that possible?
Well, we usually, when do
No.
they play out?
No, they'll be
Usually a
out.
couple for the meeting.
Yeah, they have to be mailed 10 days before town meeting day. So people will, you know, have to request it by postcard. That's the new process. So you don't go to every box anymore. So you have to, we'll have to do the mailing by postcard. Then people have to request the town meeting report or get it online, so that it will be accessible for those meetings as long as you hold those 2 informational meetings within that, you know, 10-day required window before town meeting day. So they will be available both online and in paper for people as long as those informational meetings are in that 10-day window.
And then I think we do this the same way that we have always done, that folks can request an absentee ballot, or instead of, and I guess we just do it. I know Kim, you're there. You do it at the town clerk's office for people to come in and vote that day if they want.
You don't think we could do this all in one night as far as the informational, by, you know, have it on the television and then have them call in, because you're not going to get no more questions now that you would at town meeting, and we generally start town meeting 9, we're done by 11, so it's not going to be a 2-day affair. And we can answer, because all 5 of the board members will be present. If there's any questions that come up, then all answers will be answered, and everything would be Australian ballot on town meeting day.
As long as the notice gets out there.
Well,
Yeah. Well,
We got-
and we could also, after that meeting, folks have a chance. They could, you know, we could at that meeting, we'll give them Ron's email so that we send them all in one place. If they could think of questions after, you know, we could go through Ron and we could answer questions that way instead of doing another night. Yeah, that'd probably work fine.
I think that would be the best way. Then be up to Kim to figure out how she wants to run the polls. You know, probably the same way she did the election. You know,
Yeah,
she's the one-
right. Are you there, Kim? You know, is Kim here, Ron? She was going to, but I'm not sure.
I don't see her.
Okay, all right.
Well, yeah, I think that's from emails that we've been going back and forth. I think she can do whatever, whatever process. So in this case, with a Australian ballot town meeting day, it would be pretty much what Dave said, and when I think Kim would agree that the town meeting day would be just like the general election in November. The select board would have one or more meetings ahead of that. One statutory meeting, which is that 10-day window I talked about, but you can do more if you want. But Dave's right. If you can do a good meeting with good notice, like Brian was saying, people will be ready for submitting questions ahead of time, calling in during the meeting, which GMATV can do, and hopefully answer most questions in that one meeting. The follow-up to that, of course, is really just follow-up questions. So if you go home after that informational meeting and have follow-ups, then we can still do that. It just wouldn't be at a meeting. It would be, can you better explain this? And we'd have to personally respond to people that way. So they wouldn't not have an answer. It wouldn't be in the context of that meeting if you only have one.
I mean,
There's a question really on chat for why can't you do mail-in voting? And I think that's what we're doing is if you do a virtual meeting, you'll have both options. You'll have the polls set up potentially at the town office, as well as asking for absentee ballot to mail them in. I think
Right.
that's how
Just the way we do it now. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Just the way we've always done it.
that's no different than Stowe does it. And I believe it's Stowe. They have their informational meeting the night before town meeting, and everything town meeting, they just voted.
By ballot, yeah.
Okay. Roger, that worked for you?
I guess so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the other thing is Sue did mention something that the legislature in January will be considering an option for towns to mail out ballots to everybody. So right now that's not possible, Sue, but I think if the legislature comes out with that, then the board could act on it now, but we don't have that authority to act on it. So just let the board know that you may be presented with multiple options when the legislature gets back by January 15th or so, because they're going to meet on this too, and then say, okay, here's all the things we want to give towns the options for. So you have to make final decisions by the end of January, because that's when the warnings due, but the legislature has promised to throw a whole bunch of new stuff at you in the first week of January or second week of January. So, yeah. So I think that we will have another discussion in January. So I think it'd be fair to everybody to sort of keep an open mind, but because we don't know exactly what all those things will be, but it would be good to start preparing for something along the lines of what you talked about tonight, so that there isn't a lot to do if you keep everything the same. Moving to ballots, keeping voting on town meeting day, requesting absentee ballots would almost sort of be the same, except for the voting. If you decide to do things like move town meeting or mail ballots to everybody, those are bigger things that we'd have to definitely have a meeting on to change. So I just want to let you know those are coming. You'll hear more about it in the press and newspaper and all that other stuff in the next three weeks probably.
Well, and
Ron,
Yeah.
It might be a good idea to put a bug in Green Mountain Television's ear and see if they could secure a spot for us on the TV.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Dave. I think we better talk to Green Mountain, because I think there's going to be a scramble for their time.
They're listening right now, so they're aware of your request.
Okay.
I think I heard Kim say,
Hey,
it, so I
Ron?
wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Ron, do they have the ability to go live?
Yes, we'll be live on YouTube.
Okay.
I think
Sorry,
Kim's
I'm
here.
late. I'm late. Sorry, I was in a family conference call in regards to my mom that took longer than I thought. So I kind of caught the tail end of Ron's conversation. Did you mention anything about the school ballot?
No, go ahead.
So one of the things as a merged school district that we have to take into consideration as well is the school ballots go out with the town meeting ballots when they're requested. So if we, and I don't know what the school board has decided to do yet. I don't know what the other towns have decided to do yet. But if we push off town meeting to hypothetically April or May or, you know, whatever, then their budget vote doesn't get voted until then. And then that information doesn't go to the Department of Education quick enough. And that takes time for processing at the state level, which takes time getting the education rate back to us.
Right.
One of the things in a meeting I was in one day this last week was the state election division suggested that towns, you know, work together to try and do the same thing. You know, if one town's going to push it off, then everybody should consider pushing it off. If one town's going to go to, you know, all ballots, then everybody should consider to do that, because of the school ballots are going to have to do the same thing as whatever the towns are doing. So it's just something to think about. Again, I haven't talked to the school district. They've asked me what we're doing, and I said our board hasn't discussed it yet. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, Kim, I think it's pretty safe to say we are not going to postpone or change the date of town meeting.
Yay. Yay.
Yeah, and again, I think we're looking at doing once in that 10-day window, doing a live session so that folks can call in. We can do the presentation that, you know, we'd usually do if we were at town meeting. And then folks can live call in with questions. And then, and as I said, then I've always, at the end of that meeting, when I leave a meeting, I always think of the best questions. So they can send questions to Ron and we can answer questions for folks before actually town meeting day, and then just do it all Australian ballot. And again, folks can, the same way they do now, can ask for absentee ballots, or you can, obviously you don't need the high school set up downstairs just like we always do for a regular election.
Yep. I know I put it in an email to you and to Ron, but we had a lot of people comment that, you know, when town meeting rolled around, if we were still in this pandemic, they preferred not to have the ballots mailed to them. So I just kind of wanted to say that out loud because that was communicated to us a lot.
Yep, and that's why we'll set it up and folks can come in and vote just like they always have.
Yeah.
If that's what we want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds like we have a sort of a plan. Okay, let me give you an update on the village water report and charges. First of all, we aren't joining the side judges in a lawsuit. The issue is and their lawyer has some questions about how the rates were set and how it should be done, and is there a different way to do it. We have decided that it makes sense for the town to be involved because they might go off and come up with a solution that says that the town of Hyde Park needs to cover the entire cost, which I don't think would be very agreeable to many of us. So when something major is going on, it frequently is better to be at the table and an active participant in the table and finding resolution to issues. And so that's what we're doing. There is no lawsuit. It's and the side judges and the lawyer have been very clear that that they want to work with the village to look at their methods and see how they were established and what to other people might feel as a more equitable manner. The idea I told the side judges had with the amount of cost that was in it said, well, the amount of money they're looking at needing to pay would pay for them to do a well pretty rapidly. And that made the fire department go, well, that could always be an option for them. No one is being encouraged to drill wells, pull out of the system, or anything else. People just need to look at the process and see if there are other options that are available. So that's where we are right now.
So when you say town, the only town involvement is the town fire department and the library and stuff like that. It's nothing to do with the rest of the town. There's no. I didn't hear you say that they're thinking of the rest of town paying on this also.
Well, right now, the way all of the town, including all the folks in the village as well, would be paying is through the increase that comes through what we pay to the county. Okay, so you'd see it not directly, but you would see it in the sheriff's bill, and that's actually part of what we pay into the county government that all the towns pay into. There will also there'll be a significant increase to the schools. So everybody in town, including all the folks in the village, will see an increase in their school rates because of these increased costs that they're going to have to pay. So the first part that we're seeing right now is the charge for putting in the system. And it's in the spring, right, Ron? There's the sewage, the additional charge. Yeah. That charge is coming in, which is again is going to be a significant increase. That particularly is where we as taxpayers in the town, both the courthouse and the sheriff, the library's getting some. We don't know what's happening with the fire department yet. And of course the school is going to have a gigantic charge there. So the implications for the school and for everybody paying their school taxes is probably going to be significant. So when a gigantic bill gets handed to people, they tend to like to have a conversation about it and see what the options are and to have a conversation. At this point, it is we aren't suing anybody.
But Susan, this is a project that should have been done for many, many years. And it was kicked down the road for many, many years. And the fact that people are surprised that there's going to be a huge bill is ridiculous. And I'm not quite sure why you weren't part of the discussion, even though you say, I mean, you disparage the village whenever I hear you talking about them. And I think that together we need to figure out how everyone is going to be paying for this. Of course it's expensive, but I'm not sure that you folks helped in any way to figure out how it could be less expensive. And so whatever,
Well, I don't think we were ever asked.
I don't think it's a matter of asking. And I think that you knew that there were village meetings about this for years.
And
there was a group meeting that you left.
At the village meeting, everyone was told that rates would go up 10 to 12%. That's it.
Well, hopefully
that's what they were told again and again.
Hopefully as a resident that will be accurate.
Yeah. So any further questions?
Yeah, I guess I have a question. I'm just curious, sort of if you have an alternate idea, sort of where we go from here, if this isn't an acceptable rate structure, like, yeah, does this board, since you're involved now, have an idea of how we can move forward?
No, that's why we've joined with the side judges. And they'll go through the process of working with their lawyer and coming up with folks that'll come up with an alternative.
Okay. Okay.
But again, the goal is to come up with an alternative. And our concern is the select board is that their alternative not be that Hyde Park has to pay for all of it.
To avoid putting the rate increase on the other towns in Lamoille County, in other words?
Right. And the other towns in the county and the side judges are saying, wait a minute, this isn't fair.
Of course, it's not fair, but it's a 100-year-old system.
Well, that you know,
If we'd done it along the way, it wouldn't be such a huge increase.
I'm not arguing with that, but I'm not a village trustee. I haven't been a village trustee. I don't use the water system. I don't, so it's not, again, that's an issue that is for the village and the village trustees to have been dealing with over the years.
You don't use the water system?
No, I'm not in the village.
This isn't just a village issue. Like residents who are on this system.
How much of Hyde Park do you think is on the village water system?
I have no idea, but I know there are residents on the system.
It's village residents. It's a village water system.
Why is it going up in French Hill then?
That's in the village?
It's the village?
Yeah.
So you have nothing that you use. There's nothing in the town that uses the water system.
I guess if I go into the library and use their bathroom.
I guess just sort of a point, I get that Susan might have been incorrect about where the village water system goes, but there's no reason to laugh at her for being wrong.
No, I'm not. It's just, but
that's so rude.
No, I'm as I began this, people make assumptions about what's happening and then blame me for taking the side of Stowe. No, I'm not taking Stowe's side. But to understand at least where the village water system goes and who the expansion of the sewer system, who that benefits, is sort of important to understanding how a lot of people in town are not very happy about this.
I agree. However, the fact of the matter is we're doing things to help North Hyde Park. We're doing things to help other parts of the village, so possibly
we can't, you're kind of breaking up there, so I can only partially hear you.
If we want the village to be in a position where we don't get sued by the feds, it would seem as though Hyde Park Town would also be concerned about that. Because
I mean, I don't know what you expect me to say, so I'm, again, the point of working with the side judges is to see if we can come up with a system that folks feel is more equitable.
appreciate it if you worked with the village rather than the side judge. It seems like that might have been a more cooperative way of doing it.
Okay. I guess we can agree to disagree.
I would also add, it would be really nice if we could figure out a way for the village and the town to work together.
I don't disagree with you.
I've got a suggestion. We eliminate 2 entities and create one.
No,
Sometimes I don't disagree with you.
no. The only reason I don't disagree is that 2 months ago I would have agreed with that, but I don't want the rest of the town people taking on that water and sewer debt.
Well, again, right now, Dave, and that's why I can see to the village that they're going like the select board must hate us because they're working with the side judges. Our concern is not because if you look at the piece that belongs to the town of Hyde Park, except I don't know how much our school taxes are going to go up, which could be a real issue for the school. And putting them in this, because it's so significant that that it's hard. The cost for the courthouse is a significant increase, and it works to the benefit of the town to have it spread all over the place. But if they all get together and decide they can come up with, and it all belongs on the town of Hyde Park, then that's where the town of Hyde Park gets hurt. And that's where it's seeming fairly clear to me from this conversation that the village doesn't understand that part. Because if it all gets shipped back onto the town, we would really have some issues. So working with the people who are truly aggrieved at this situation, I mean, obviously the village did all this work. They feel they've come up with something that's equitable. They feel that it's fair. That's one point of view. There's another point of view that's being asked to pick up the bulk of the bill that doesn't agree with that point of view at all. And so now we just need to go through the process of figuring it out. And I'm sure that'll take time. And again, as I say, nobody's in a lawsuit right now. It's just trying to, as again, Hyde Park, the village, and all these folks had all the financial resources of your water department to hire experts to do all these things. The town doesn't have any of that money. We don't have any of that kind of resource. We don't have money coming in from those sorts of things. So we're joining with the group that is concerned to see if we can get to a different solution that everybody feels happy with. And that'll just take some time. So we'll just work our way through the process.
And I think that's great. And I really hope we can come up with a solution that works for both, because I'm concerned that it's divisive to pit the villagers against the Hyde Park residents. Because I live in the village, but I pay taxes to Hyde Park and the village. And I find the costs, I think that the bill is really concerning. That's an enormous jump. And I'm terrified that they're going to put that cost solely on residents who use the system. But that would increase my bill by like $100,000, which
exactly.
So I also share concerns, and I just want to work with you. And if we make mistakes, have you educate us. That's why we come to these meetings. I just need it to be a positive experience.
Well, and again, I doubt if there'll be a rapid solution to this. Is there frequently, and particularly when you get into structuring rates, I mean, that's something that is such a specialized field. So we'll just have to, and again, I know part of the concern is that this project isn't done. Okay, there are more bonds that need to be passed to finish this project. And the idea that a very small percentage of the population is voting to spend money that is being passed on to a whole bunch of other people does not sit well with people.
That's why we need to have one entity. Yeah. And then that governing body makes those decisions. It spreads it out equitably around everybody within the town.
That's what the village.
Anybody with some common sense would realize that.
That's what
Yeah,
the village tried.
I'm sorry, what did the village try to do?
The village has been trying to do, and they do have a person who works with rate structures and understands it more than the select board does, I believe.
I don't disagree with that statement at all. Yeah.
But it was a requirement. It wasn't like they just sat there and said, "Oh, let's do this." This was a requirement. They had to do this, and they got bonds, and they got money from the. So they've done what they could. It's just a matter of the fact that nothing was done for so many years. And so, anyway, I know we've talked this to death, but I want you to appreciate that as a resident here, it's very difficult for me to have you two entities fighting with each other. And it's not just about water rates, it's about other things as well. And I wish you would work on that.
We will work on it.
Hey, Susan,
Yes.
just a quick question, just to verify. So the village bond vote, nobody in the town was able to vote on that, correct?
Correct.
Like, say, David on, yeah. But now they're being asked to pay for something they couldn't even vote on is kind of not fair too. But all the blame's been put on the select board, where really the select board's hands were tied for that whole situation. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that anybody on the Hyde Park Select Board had overall say of anything going on with that bond vote. Correct?
That is correct.
There were meetings you could
I
have.
just want to clarify my head.
You could have participated in the discussion.
People went to meetings and were told that rates would go up 10 to 12%. Okay. We were not told that there were going to be a variety of different rates. Here's what it was going to be. We weren't given any of that information.
It falls to the vote. It falls to the vote. Who votes on it? That's where the equitableness of it comes from. Who votes is what it is. And if we don't have a vote, we don't have a say. Part of our
I'm sure that's where it is, and we know there are other. So we've ended up in this situation. I'm sure the village did what they thought was right and the best they could do. It's not, you learn in public office that a lot of times when you end up doing something, it may be the right thing to do, but people's taxes go up. They aren't going to be happy with you. Okay, so they're gonna want to talk about it, and that's what this is. Seeing if there's another way to deal with the issue. It's in many ways it's that simple, but Brian's right. It's about people not, and again, so it isn't just the view of Hyde Park, but it's all those other towns who had no idea something like this was coming. Okay, and to be told, here you've got to pay this amount of money, and the way what you pay is based on is the property value, is the grand list of your town. That's why Stowe a number of years ago because the way the little county government we have is funded is through that type of a system. Okay, so that it goes out to all the towns that are part of that group, and it's based on your grand list. Stowe went all the way to the Supreme Court to argue that that wasn't fair, that they had to pay too much of the county budget because, of course, Stowe has way the highest grand list. And the Supreme Court ruled against Stowe, and they said, no, this is a perfectly reasonable, logical way to split up the cost. So that's the sort of, for you guys, that's some of the history of this kind of funding and how people feel about it. So when communities like Stowe, and then you get Cambridge has a pretty high, because of course both areas have ski resorts, have pretty high grand lists. So they get hit with a big bill that they have no say over. And like, they could care if Hyde Park Village has to upgrade their water and sewer. It's like, that isn't on us, that's on you guys.
Well, not exactly, but okay.
Yeah, well, but I think if you lived in Stowe or Cambridge, you'd appreciate that perspective.
I don't think anybody wants to pay more, but if the government says you have to upgrade your system, you have to upgrade your system.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right what you're saying right there. But we have to budget, and that means everybody budgets, not just a certain amount of people. If it's affecting everybody, everybody needs to be involved in that decision. And if we went to the meetings, and we did, some did, but we didn't have a vote.
You could
We
have
didn't
had
have a say. We could have put input into it, but we didn't have a say. We didn't have a vote.
So anyway, I think it's obviously is a difficult topic. I'm sorry that that residents feel as though the select board doesn't care about them, or that we're taking somebody else's side. We aren't. We are legitimately trying to take care of the town of Hyde Park, of which the village is part of us.
So are you going to do, if the village is part of the town, are you going to do anything to help the village residents in all of this?
In terms of what?
In terms of finances, if that's what it comes down to.
Well, I can't, that's why we joined, to see what other options there are.
The options were back, the option choice was made back when we were two separate entities. We didn't have a choice. We don't have a say. I keep saying it over and over again.
No, I understand.
So, okay, we done. We'll get on to some other things on the agenda, knowing that this will be ongoing for some time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. Okay. What should we do next, Ron? Are you there, Ron?
Sorry. The LHMP is a action item for tonight, which is the end of a kind of a quick process, but it took a lot of time. We had to work with regional planning again, as mentioned earlier, to update the local hazard mitigation plan, which is one of the boxes that we have to check to get the maximum ERAF money, which is the emergency fund from the state that matches federal money. So this is part of the, when Sue mentioned check the box before, this is 17.5% of additional state aid that we get if we do our local plans and policies properly. So one of those plans is the LHMP. So Leah over at Regional Planning and I worked with the Planning Commission and the public a couple times to get an update, which really sets out a punch list of things that we're supposed to work on over 5 years. And some of it's resiliency, some of it's mitigation of hazards and so on. And I think at this point, we did go through a pretty detailed review with FEMA. They have a state officer that administers the FEMA regulations, because this is really a FEMA document. We have to have in place for even the 75% FEMA money. This document has to be in place. The state does the 17.5 if we have 5 or 6 documents in place. So it's one of those important pieces that FEMA has approved in its current form, which was actually draft number 8. It's requires a resolution to be passed, which is from the select board and the village trustees working together. This is a joint document, much like the town plan is a joint document approved by both the trustees and select board. So we're not totally separate. I know there's been some discussion about that tonight, but we do a lot of work together. And this is one of those documents, which is a joint hazard mitigation plan. That's why we need 2 resolutions. After the resolutions are passed, then the document goes to FEMA for final approval. So that we're at the tail end of this process. So I think everybody saw from the last meeting that the draft that was going to FEMA for review they had a couple odds and ends that were some language to add to better explain public input. So we added that paragraph in the final version, and that's the version they approved. So the select board's next step is to approve the draft, to make it final locally, and then we have to get that up to FEMA to have them approve it. And then we'll be done for 5 years. Of course, the critical step is, what do you do with the plan? Do you let it sit on the shelf, or do you start to pick at it? So in January, I was hoping to have a little bit of time on the agenda to talk to you and invite Carol Fano and Brad Carrier to participate about how we work on the plan, not just put it on the shelf. So we should have final approval by then from FEMA. So that is that.
Unmute. Okay, so we need a motion to accept the resolution, to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Got a second out there?
Second.
Okay. Need any more information, anybody? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
Delinquent tax attorney is next. Okay, so yeah, this came up, geez, I think it was last November, last December. There was an issue with a tax sale. We had to redo some paperwork. The question came up of how do we get good paperwork done in the first part? And it sort of sat on the table as do we stay with the current delinquent tax attorney, or do we change? Angela Ross is the current attorney, and David Rue, who's the town attorney on other matters that the town deals with, has said his firm can do it if desired. He's not advocating for it. It's not one of the better jobs of attorney offices to do delinquent tax attorney work, but they will do it. Angela and they're out of Burlington. Not that that's a big concern, but Angela was one of the few local attorneys that are still doing it. So that's part of the I don't know what it is with attorneys that don't want to do delinquent tax, but I think it has to do with something with the low fees that are tied to it. So, for example, because we have such a low, a good and low balance on delinquent taxes, and we do a tax sale every year, some of the fees, which in interest charges on the accounts are low, benefiting taxpayers because they're all keeping current, so they don't have those charges. But the town as a whole has seen reduced interest revenue. And I don't remember the formula, but if Kim was on, she could probably tell me there's a formula based on how much the attorneys can charge. Kim, do you have that number?
I think it's 15%.
Of the amount owed,
15%
right?
plus fee.
Yeah, so the lower the balance of those things, the less attorneys get. But anyway, so that's the option. Like I said, we've kind of pushed it off the last few meetings. I think we've deferred the tax sale, which we normally would have had by about now, November, December, due to COVID. So that's not scheduled to happen, but maybe you want to hold off a little bit longer on moving forward with that. But anyway, regardless, Kim does need to work with somebody. It's mostly legal work to prepare for the tax sale when it is scheduled. So I don't know how anybody's feeling about that change or keeping with Angela. That's where we're at.
You've done well with Angela.
Say again, Brian?
I said we've done well with Angela, right?
We had a lot of expenses tied to one delinquent tax account that we had to hire Dave Rue, who's the town attorney, to fix for Angela. So it wasn't the best experience for the town. We had extra expense to kind of fix some things, and we're still dealing with that because for some reason, Mr. Bartlett doesn't want to cooperate at this late stage. So I don't know if that means he's not interested in selling or acquiring the property back, but I think some of the concerns we had was just on a little bit of quality, but I think you're right. Generally, there's not a huge problem per se, if that's what you're getting at, Brian. But it's just that there was one bad incident that took a lot of extra effort to recover from.
Yeah. Plus, if I'm sort of, toss a coin here, but David does our other stuff too. So since attorneys, this seems to not be their favorite thing to do, potentially I would say a firm that is doing your other business might be
Conflicting?
faster at getting work done for us because they've got our other business as well, as opposed to it just being one little thing that they do for us that obviously isn't high on attorneys. Oh, I love to do this list.
Okay.
I think that yeah, Dave.
Yeah, is there one attorney that Kim'd rather work with than the other?
I have never worked with David. Ron has, so it's hard for me to say, one or the other. I will say that, with the exception of this one Bartlett property, she was really easy to work with, willing to, do whatever needed to be done. When this happened, she was willing to do a deed, a corrective deed, for us at no charge, of course, because, of what happened. If we did stay with Angela, I would want to sit down and talk with her about, the documents, how I want to see them drawn up as far as the warnings, the tax sale report, and at time of tax sale, I want to see the documents where the taxpayers signed for the documents that they're required to be delivered. I will say in Angela's defense on this, Mr. Bartlett went through a period of mailing address issues where no matter every piece of mail we mailed from the town came back to us. He would call and say, "Here's my address." We would send it, it would come back. So it was a combination of things. I'm not defending anybody. It's just, I know what we go through trying to get mail to him. But having said that, we shouldn't have sold that piece of property without those letters being received by him or proof of that, So, I would be fine either way. But like I said, if we stuck with Angela, which I'm fine with, I would just want to sit down with her and have a conversation of, some expectations and changes of documents and, what I want to see in the reports and on tax sale day.
You would have to sit down with that David also, correct, and tell him what you want.
Well, I would show him reports that we've had in the past and how I'd like to see improvements on them. For a very easy example, I would like to see an actual, not just a name and a property description, or I would like to see the parcel ID number and a legal address. It just makes it a little bit more clear for recording purposes, for warning purposes, for tracking purposes when people are doing title searches. So, and he may already be doing that, so I might not have. It's just a matter of what do his reports look like and what would I like to see.
Okay, now this, I don't know if this is here nor there, but far as saving money, is I have personally delivered with my appointment with the sheriff's department tax notices for every town but the town of Hyde Park. Is that something we can do in-house and pay the $50, $75, whatever it is, and go through it that way without the expense of a lawyer? That 15% plus fee.
probably those lawyers had you use those services. Angela uses like overnight mail services like FedEx or UPS or overnight postal service where they've got to sign for a document. She also uses return receipt requested, so they've got to sign the little green card that says they received the mail. And I'm not saying that your option's not a great option, but that is something that I told her this is, if we have to sell this property again in the future, if we can't get mail to him, this is how we have to notice him. And she agreed with me.
No, I'm just saying what I see out there. I just wondered why Hyde Park do it that way. Okay.
So what would we like to do, board?
I would go with Kim's recommendation, seeing she's the one working with him.
Okay, Kim, what do you want us to do?
I don't think any harm she talked to Keller.
What, Roger? What?
I think you ought to talk to both of them, see what they can come up with, which one has the best solution.
That sounds like a plan. That work for you, Kim? Then you can choose. Okay. Thanks, Roger. That's a good idea.
Good job, Rod.
Boy, that's living proof. Even a blind squirrel will find a nut now and then.
See, now I was thinking his words of wisdom. He doesn't say a lot, but when he says something, it's got a lot of value.
That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Are we? All right. What else? What else absolutely has to get done, Ron, so we can get to the?
You have a motion on the E&O from listers.
Now, does that put $83,000 back into our listing?
No, the 83,000 is currently not paid by the landowners, but is paid by the state of Vermont because of either changes of property or they didn't follow all the state rules or something. The state has taken them out of current use, that 83,000. So now the landowners have to pay.
Right.
So it's from the state's pocket to the landowner's pocket because they were no longer enrolled in the current use. So there's no townwide impact. It's really the landowner is now responsible for that.
Yeah, I see. I make a motion to accept the errors and omissions grand list by taking the $83,010 reduction from current use.
Yeah, let me just correct something. I just want to check that value. If you're putting the value in the motion, so it's
83,010.
Hold on, they submitted a late one to me, so I got
okay.
check there.
Okay, they submit. You guys go ahead. I'm going to go get something else to drink.
Me too, when it comes with a cork.
So it's 83,400 for the motion.
400.
That's the net change of 4 different properties.
That's the same thing that we did with the patch property up there on the Battle Row here a couple of years ago, where they took part of the heat off.
Yeah, so right, so that's what happens. The state continually reviews all their contracts, which are typically 10-year contracts for current use. And if somebody doesn't check all the boxes or do the report, or they simply want to get out, there's there is sometimes penalties to pay, but also this impact here where they end up paying more on their property tax. And this isn't a dollars. 83,400 is not dollars. That's the assessment value. So the actual dollars are much less. You're talking about $2,000 or $3,000 in taxes, not $83,000 in taxes. This is the assessed value getting out of the current use.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Well, I'll read do that then and change the motion to read $83,400.
Second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay.
On the agenda, there should be for biweekly payroll to be voted tonight to go effective January 2022. Not
2022, right. Right. Brian suggested that I go out and figure out what was happening here. So literally ended up talking with I think everybody that works for the town, and most of them their spouses as well, and agreed that the easiest and then talking with Ron and Allison. So when you need to make the flip. So as we can see, this winter is just going to continue to be stressful for everybody. So I said, how about if what we do is agree to go to bi-weekly next January? As to say, Ron made the mistake. Like, oh, no, we're not. No, not this January. And come June, start sending reminders to folks that they know and talking with folks. They said that would be great. Just giving them plenty of time. And as things, again, as you know, lots of folks are living pretty close, and there are some weekly expenses. And the big one that I'm so many years away from and never even crossed my mind, which is childcare, which people usually pay for weekly. So folks just saying, as long as they had plenty of time to kind of get some money aside and be able to make that when you hit that week, when you have the transition, that would be great. And everybody just appreciates taking the time. So I would say let's have the plan be that we go to bi-weekly a year from January, which we can vote on now, or we can wait in the summer and do it. But it's
Let's do it now and get it over with.
You have your payroll, Ron, of what would be the first pay date, and if we went bi-weekly in January?
Yeah, so the way this, just almost like we did this time, which we went over all those details, and we'll present them to employees probably in October, so people have a good timeline of how this is going to happen. Probably remind everybody in July, maybe, but by October, I'd want to put out a very clear, notice. You are noticed on January 7th, which is the first pay date in 2022. We're switching to bi-weekly. So some of that's going to have to, it's either going to be the 7th or the 14th, and it'll depend on the number of weeks as we get closer. We didn't update that memo. We did it for this year. I didn't update it again for next year, but the work is done. But I think, just like you said before, notice is key. Early notice, reminder notices. We'll have to do that numerous times as we get, maybe through the summer, and then people, can start thinking about the January switchover.
So like you said, start in July?
Yep.
Was all the employees okay with that 2022 date, Susan?
Muted, Susan.
oh yeah, you got to unmute. See, that's what I said. You got to remember to unmute. Talking with folks, that was great, and they appreciated putting it off a year. Everybody agrees they can see once you make the flip, you're fine, but having plenty of time to make it I think is the key there.
Good.
Okay, so I guess a motion to have that happen in January of 2022.
So move.
And second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, thank you.
That's it. That's it for action items. The minutes are the only other.
Okay, how about folks, we can do that when we get out, but let's, we should, I think, go into executive session to talk about our greater position and variety of applicants that we have.
Ready?
And we'll get a brief break here while Ron gets us all
I'm gonna
disconnected.
sign off.
Okay,
Thanks, Kim.
thanks, Kim.
Good
Then
night.
can I come into that?
Merry Christmas.
Have a good
You
night.
too, thank you. Good night.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, right.
Susan,
Yes,
can I come in the executive session for the grader?
oh, yeah, that's you, Mark, right?
Yeah, you should have
Yeah.
a motion to move in executive session, discuss personnel with Ron and Mark.
Right,
So moved.
okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed, abstaining? Okay, now Ron will get us in and we can talk with Mark
Yeah.
about the variety of people here. Wait a minute.
Hold, please.
Okay, we're back in public session. What we just need to do is come up with a date here in the next week, plus that we can get together and just do the budget.
One of them nights because that works for Brian.
Monday or Tuesday, yeah.
Okay, let's
Oh.
see.
Monday.
Next Monday, I have a different board meeting. I could skip that
Oh.
one though.
Tuesday, Brian's got Tuesday off.
29th?
Yeah, this,
Never, fine with me.
I can't do
I
it
just
Tuesday
gotta do
night.
it later at night.
you can't do it Tuesday night?
No.
Okay, well, let's do it Monday and I'll skip the other board meeting.
What's the time? I don't get home till 5.
Okay, just do a regular 6 o'clock and we just do budget.
Well, that
Yeah,
work
we
good?
can do budget.
So that worked for you, Roger?
This coming Monday night,
Correct.
28th.
Yes, sir.
28th. All right. At the office?
Well, we're still, I guess if a couple of people, I wonder if we could do that.
Well, we got enough. We got enough room down here, just 6 of us, 7 of us.
Yeah,
I won't be there.
yeah.
I don't go into gatherings. That's not a thing.
Good for it.
Yeah, no thanks. I've been healthy. I got 6 months before I can get my teeth clean. Never mind to go meet with you guys.
Well, could if a couple of folks, and again, because sort of getting this sorted out. So if a couple of you wanted to get together down there, you could do it, and we could do it this way. And then if you got your iPad set up or whatever you want, we can do it that way.
I'm supposed to have my iPad set up, but it didn't work.
You want some help, Roland? We got
I
helpers.
did. We did.
We got lots of helpers for you.
I'll wear my N95 mask and come over to your house.
With what I heard on the news, you better wear more than a mask. You better have an air pack on. You're gonna come down.
Oh, you're listening to CNN again, aren't you?
Yeah, we don't want anybody coming in from Great Britain. Phew.
I don't want to hurt your feelings, but if I can't have Christmas with my grandchildren, I'm sure the hell I will sit in the meeting with you guys.
That's right.
Okay, so we'll figure out if a couple of people want to get together. Ron, we'll figure it out, email it, but it will be primarily this way at 6 o'clock on the 28th.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right here.
I think I think to answer Roger Audette's concern, I think it's GMATV can set up that big screen with what we're looking at on the iPad. So Roger could sit there with the mic and be like he's on the iPad if he doesn't have that up and going by next Monday. And that's easy to do. We just got to tell the access channel to do it.
That'd be good.
Okay. Why don't you work with them and get that sorted out for him, Ron?
Yeah, I'll work with them and Roger, and we'll get it done.
Okay, is that, ooh. Is that, we haven't done the town orders. I didn't go look at the thing either.
Yeah, it's
I did.
Took me 2 hours.
I was gonna say, I just looked at it, I went, oh, I didn't do it. Okay. Want to wait until, Ron, can we wait until Monday to do the town orders? Just
I
if
don't
we've
care. I
looked at
looked
it.
at them.
I haven't looked at due dates. There might be due dates in there that need to be, for check writing purposes, then mail and paid on time, because I'm sure there's probably a couple in there that are running up against a late fee or something.
Well, I'm good. If Roger and who else? Rolly, you looked at them too?
Yes.
I don't think.
I did.
If there's anything that's at all different or high, Ally sends them to me and she hasn't sent anything to me, so they got to be just the regular stuff, I would assume. If we're comfortable.
Ron, maybe you can answer this question for me, because I went through the town orders also. The uniform company, what am I saying?
Cintas.
No. They bill us every week.
CINTAS?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weekly bill. Yep.
Weekly bill? Oh, because I was looking at that, and that sprung a thing with me. At $109 a week, that's costing us just under $6,000 a year for uniforms.
Yes, it's almost 7,500 because that number varies when we have when Mike Reno signs up. So the cost per week is higher.
Yeah, but what I also noticed on there was a subnote on top that says 2 pair of pants are missing, and the town will be billed for them in 3 weeks. Now,
yes.
Now, number one, which employee is that? And if it's one that's left us, I think we ought to send them a bill.
Yeah, so that LaHoulier was put on notice to return his 2 pieces of equipment within that 3 weeks. So that's kind of pending on him to bring those back.
Okay, then it'd be pending on us whether we send them a bill or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, got it. And that's the only question I had on this things.
Okay.
Okay, then if somebody wants to move to accept them, works for me.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed, abstaining? Okay.
We had one more. They were all right.
Yep. I did look at the minutes. Everybody looked at the minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of 11/9/2020 and 11/16/2020.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed, abstaining? Okay. Now, I guess that's it, right?
That's it for me.
Has anybody heard anything about the Cobra being down to the Harvey's trailer park?
No.
Hey, Johnson?
Right here in Hyde Park,
Oh, Sterling View?
Sterlingville, yeah.
Yeah. Nope, I hadn't heard anything, but that
I don't
doesn't,
think that's garbage anymore.
I heard today it was down there.
it's, yeah, Ken's in the folks, the residents up there are in the process of buying it from Ken.
I thought they'd already
Already done.
I thought they took over 1st of July.
Ah, okay.
I'm not sure. That's what
Right.
they
No,
said.
no. There hasn't been a closing yet. They're still working on it.
Okay.
Okay, but no, I hadn't heard that, but it's, you know, man, it's all over the place, so. Us going out and going to the post office and getting the mail is a big deal at this point. So, you know, I don't got no idea what's going on. Okay.
Okay. Have a good Christmas.
Yeah, everybody have a good Christmas. Be
Merry
safe.
Christmas.
And we'll be, yeah, we'll see everybody next Monday.
Okay, be
Okay.
safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks a million, everybody.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.